What's going on? Welcome back. It has been a while. It has been a very long time, I feel like, since I've done a stream. And I'm looking forward to getting these things going again. I apologize last week. I know I was supposed to do a couple, but had some issues that I needed to get taken care of. They are taken care of now, and looking to reschedule some of these shows. So lucky enough, I was able to schedule one tonight. We got another one next week, and working on a few more before the season starts. Loved hearing that song again. It's been a while since I've heard that intro song, and it just kind of got me fired up to do this over again. Fug checking in. Missed seeing Fug check in once in a while. Swifty here with the No Thumbs account. Baker, for Pete's sake. Yeah, I know, man. For Pete's sake, I'm back. I am back, and we'll be doing a few more over the next little while. But let's get right into it today. I know we've had to push the show about an hour from the original scheduled time, but that's okay. All right, this is the set Between Two Sticks, your host, Big Kahuna 03, as always. And joining me today is a two-time AHL Player of the Week and one-time NHL Player of the Week. He is a Calder Cup champion and Memorial Cup finalist, a great personality who joins the No Thumb Show quite often as co-host and guest. Welcome to the show, Fly25 or Fly Guy 2525. I don't even know what his name is anymore, but welcome to the show, man. Thanks for joining today.
What an intro. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I had to make sure I mentioned the Memorial Cup finalist in there. I did that when Swifty was here too.
There you go. I didn't even know about those players of the week.
There you go. Well, that's what the trophy section for. That's my deepest insight I can get is go to the trophy section and figure out what the hell accomplishments does everybody have in this league.
There you go.
Anyways, how's it going, man?
Yeah, doing all right. Can't complain.
Can't complain.
Well, I could, but nobody's gonna listen anyway.
So well, why don't you tell the viewers why we were an hour late today?
Oh, geez. I flew up from Florida. I'm gonna be in New Jersey, New York area for the next few weeks, and my flight was a little delayed. And then driving home from the airport, I popped a tire on a curb on an off ramp. So that was a fun few hours waiting for the tow truck and getting that all figured out. But we're here. We made it. Let's have some fun.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Thanks. Yeah, I honestly, like, when you first said that, I was like, man, I'm surprised that you still wanted to do this. So thanks for doing this. How we normally start is one random or interesting fact about yourself.
Random or interesting fact. So I was honestly brainstorming on the plane today. I was like, what the hell am I gonna say? Um, so one interesting fact is, and me and my dad have done this for a while, but our goal is to make it to all 32 stadiums and watch a game there. And so far we have hit 14 of them. So we're on the right track. We're scheduled to go to a few more this season. Um, but that's kind of our thing, and we've done that for the past few years. So
Nice. That's awesome, man. That's really cool. It's something I've kind of always wanted to do at some point, and just like I've never really gotten to it. So it's really cool. It's something you get to share with your dad. Of the ones you have planned for this year, what's the one that you're most looking forward to?
oh man, I think I think we're gonna do the Seattle, Vancouver, British Columbia kind of circuit up there. I'm excited to go see a game in Seattle. That stadium looks sick. Have you ever seen it?
Yeah, it looks nasty.
It's like underground. It looks so cool.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, that'll be a cool trip too. Going out west, it'll be pretty sweet. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Right on. Okay, so when did you first join LG, and how did you hear about it?
Uh, well, so I didn't start playing online until like the very end of NHL 18. Um, so I knew no one. So I only really started playing um, club in early NHL 19. And the guys that I was playing with, a few of them played LG, and I would play with them and then be like, you should sign up, you should do this, you should do that. No, I had no clue about anything. Like, I'm pretty sure the first person to reach out to try and scout me was Magical Datsuk. But then, like, when the time came, he just never responded. So that fell through. So I ended up just like randomly signing up. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know any managers. I had no clue what was going on. Um, and it was season 32, and I got randomly assigned to uh, the 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 then Kootenay Ice, and the team was just terrible. I think I ECU'd for like a game or two, and it wasn't that great of an experience. And then good old Swifty, he'll call it a stroke of genius if you ask him. But I got traded as sort of a TC throw in to Moncton mid season, and the rest is kind of history.
There you go. There you go. And when you joined, did you find that it was like tough to get used to, or tough to learn right away, or like did you find any like discouragement? I know when I first joined, I found it was pretty confusing. So like when you first joined, how'd you find like kind of like adjusting to the LG way?
Well, it's just I didn't really know where to go or what to do. Like I'm pretty sure I found a link to their Discord up in the group section there. But other than that, like I had no idea how things worked. Like scheduling and availability and whatever. I had no clue. Position lock. I just signed up for defense honestly because I was decent at it, and I figured there were less good defensemen, and you know I could play with better people and move up a little quicker that way. But other than that, I was clueless.
Fair enough.
So
And if I'm not mistaken, when I looked, your first random assignment, you ended up playing on that team for the season too. Did you end up spending a lot of time or any time on TC?
I'm pretty sure I signed up, if memory serves, like 2 or 3 weeks into the season. So it was after bidding.
Hmm.
Um, and then like I was talking to them, and I remember I was kind of wondering to management like, hey, what's the plan here, whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, you won't be traded. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the next week, you've been traded. You know how that goes. Um, but yeah, and then I didn't know what to do for when I got to Moncton either. Like I remember going in the Discord, like, hey, I can pretty much play wherever. Like, you know, I'll play in club with you guys. And then I'm pretty sure the first club game I ever played with Swifty and the guys was against it was the Syracuse Crunch. It was like that Owen Sound Attack team who had just won MEMS, and they were, really high up in the AHL, and we beat them in overtime. And I remember Swifty was like over the moon because we had beaten the former, Dars and Deceptive and all those guys. And he's like, "Oh, we're gonna have to figure something out here." So then he shipped some poor soul off and made the room for me.
Yes, he's in the chat right now saying NYR25 fan to the ice for Ravage and Fly.
Yep.
There you go. There's the trade right there. The legendary trade. Fug's kind of sharing something in the chat too. Similar experience to you, saying that season 35 Fly got me into LG and then never heard from him since.
So this guy, I was trying to recruit him for like eons, but he sat for like a legitimate year in vetting and just couldn't figure it out. So we finally got him through vetting, and it was the year after I moved up from the CHL. Like, so that was season 34, I'm pretty sure. I think
It sounds like
34 or
it, yeah.
35.
He said
Whatever,
35.
yeah, whatever it was. Um Season 35, I was supposed to manage in the CHL, but then um I got an offer to be like paid AGM, and people were going to get me in bidding, but that didn't work out for plenty of other reasons. But yeah, so he like I'm pretty sure he got a CHL bid with Calgary that season. And then I forget if he took a ban or something. I'm pretty sure he took a ban or got drafted and then took a ban. I forget what it was. But then I managed with Swifty season 36 and we couldn't get him. And then I moved up to AHL in 37 and he was still a prospect, so I couldn't get him. I played in NHL 38, 39. I tried to get him in AHL, but he got like 2 million to be on a third line from some idiots. So it's like the timings never worked out.
Fair
But
enough.
I tried.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
There you go, Fug. Now you know. Now you know.
Well,
You were not gettable, and then you weren't worth more than 2 million. There it is.
I didn't have any money left. But yeah.
Right on. And you talked a little bit about being AGM and whatnot. So I know you've managed a little bit. How many seasons have you managed, and like what made you get into management?
Um well, so the initial push for management, I was like I had spent the previous season um in the NHL, and it wasn't fun. Um I got myself sent down to AHL Milwaukee to try and win a cup, and then we kind of squandered that away. So I was like, you know what? I really don't want to go to the NHL again. So Swifty was thinking about managing. So I was like, you know what? That might be fun to go manage with Swifty. Because I'd like kind of listened in when he was managing his Lethbridge teams and his Moncton teams. So I was kind of curious as to what it was all about. So he, I guess, got me vetted for management in season 36. And that's how I started managing with him on that the Windsor team in season 36. But the only free contracts I've had was season 40 in AHL and season 41. It was the Providence seasons, but other than that, it was just Windsor.
Nice, nice. So yeah, you have some manager experience too. What do you think makes us a successful manager in this league?
Well, I think it's a couple things. One, it's preparation. Like you need to go into the season with a plan. You need to have things on paper. You need to do some recruiting. You need to pour over the sign up list. If you're in the CHL, you need to reach out to some people who aren't in LG, or friends who have friends that aren't in LG. Like you need to put in the time before the season, like before the season even starts, in order to be successful come bidding time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of times it's really hard to put a good team together out of bidding. Like everybody's going to screw up your plans. Like the button pushers are always going to keep clicking on the one guy, and he's going to go up to 6 million when he's only worth 3. Like, so you need to have backup plans on backup plans on backup plans. And you basically need to get enough assets in bidding so that you can make trades for the people you actually want. Like that's the key number one,
Hmm.
right? Key number two is you you need to set your players up for success when it comes to um, lineups and matchups and things of that nature, right? And some of that has to do with avail, but a lot of that is like, who plays well with who is kind of an asshole on the mic and shouldn't be paired with these people, right? It's thinking about how people play well in the sandbox together
Yeah,
and trying to set them up for success. So that's the second. And then third is like you can't just sit on your hands and wait for things to happen. Like you need to be proactive, you need to be on the site, you need to be looking at opportunities, and you need to be establishing, target lists to go and, go talk to these other managers and try and make some trades. Like it's a lot more work than you'd think if you want to be successful.
for sure, for sure. Those are all really good points too. And one of the key ones is like that matching of personalities or like types of people. Um, just because like some people don't work well with others, and some people won't play with guys they don't think are on their level, and you just causes a bunch of stuff. So I'm glad. I don't think I've heard that one yet. Like that is a really key point of when, especially when you're scheduling lineups, right?
Yeah, and it's always the dumbest things too. It's whether it's the same style where one guy, multiple guys on the same line are puck dominant, and you know they need a map to go around the ice without the puck. Like they won't play to get well together, or as you move up, you'll have two puck moving defensemen who don't really like to play defense. Like if both of them are trying to join the rush and want the puck and want to go score, like you're just going to let up breakaways all game. So like those kind of things, like yes, the players individually might be skilled at the game, but they need to all gel together in some way in order to be successful.
For sure, for sure. No, those are all really good points. Now you've been part of some successful teams across the leagues, and normally what I'll ask my guests is like, what was the best team you ever been on? But for you, that's kind of not comparable, right? Like you've been on a really good team in the NHL, you've been on really good teams in the AHL and the CHL. So I'm gonna ask you this: which team did you enjoy being a part of the most, and why?
Um, that's hard too. Um, well, I think the tops was season 36 with Windsor. That was probably the most fun I've ever had playing this game because it was a combination of like me, Swifty, and Trimmy, and it was kind of COVID was kind of just starting up, and everybody was home and available, and we were grinding the phones, and we would just sit on a call every Sunday afternoon watching football, hanging out, and looking over trade targets. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I really enjoyed that, and the camaraderie in the locker room. You know, I'd say 95% of the time was a ton of fun. Like obviously winning solves a lot of things, right?
For sure.
Um, but it was a combination of Swifty Trimmy in management. Like we got my friends in the CHL, like Ryan and Bar Down, and um, got to play with them. Met some awesome people. So like that season was the pinnacle. It's too bad that we weren't able to win it, but that's one of the most fun times I've had playing this game. But obviously, the other was season 40s when we won the Calder. Um, not as easy as it looked from the outside. There were a lot of personalities on that team that we needed to kind of work through, and um, our list of bidding targets was kind of exposed, and we got kind of picked on during bidding, and we had to pay more than we thought for some guys. But the trades that we were able to pull off midseason, like bringing in G Baby, bringing in Fury, bringing in like those key pieces that you could see just got us over the hump. It was really fun to see the team kind of gel as we got into the playoffs and make that run. So those were the two.
Awesome. That's awesome. Um, TR Mick Big Mac in the chat saying Fly loves to yell at his goalie. Um,
Well, I just like to tell Mac that he's going to get traded. That's all.
and Swifty saying Fly, you would give him the names, and Trimmy and him would go do the swindling. You were the
Yeah.
name guy.
I have always been, for whatever reason, I've always been the target guy.
There you go.
I'll tell you who's good, and you guys can figure it out. And if you need me to beat someone over the head, I'll come in at the end.
Perfect. That's awesome. Now, briefly mentioned it. You know, like you played in the NHL, you played in the AHL and the CHL, and had success at all three levels. Um, can you kind of give the audience just a little bit like the difference between each league as you go up? Like maybe like what the CHL to the AHL is and the AHL to the NHL. Like what kind of differences there are, whether it's skill gap or whether it's just the way everyone plays, like from a strategy perspective.
Yeah, sure. Um, so I think just fundamentally, each league is going to have a skill floor, right? Like there's going to need to be a certain amount of thumb skill and understanding of the game to be able to move up to those levels, right? Um, some people are there, they won't do very well, and then they'll go back. But like to truly be successful at the next level, there is a minimum amount of skill that you need to have to just be able to fit in and contribute, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I'd say the vast majority of it is between the ears. Like you just need to understand what you're doing. That's for the vast majority is just hockey IQ, and it only increases as you go up the food chain. So I'll give you an example. In the CHL, you have basically your wingers. And it's not just the wingers. It's almost every player. You can skate full speed, a straight line, and everyone. I call it like mites on ice, where everyone's just chasing the puck and it's full speed. It's a circus. Like it works, but when you come up against more organized teams that are fundamentally sound and can trap and kind of know what they're doing, that's where the difference is. So like that's the main difference between CHL and AHL. It's almost coordinated circus. Like in the AHL, there's a little bit more structure, right? And it's the higher end of the skill of the CHL guys plus the structure that you're going to see, and that's kind of where the AHL is, or I would say was for the past few seasons before this upcoming season, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then the AHL to the NHL is a whole different ball game, and that skill floor is way higher than CHL to AHL. Like I'd say for a lot of people with enough playing with decent players, you can kind of carve out a decent AHL spot for yourself. All it takes is a little bit of structure and you can kind of get there if you practice enough. But for the NHL, like some people, like they're just never going to make it to the NHL just because of the skill floor, right?
Yeah.
But then the NHL is just a whole different speed. And you hear it in real life too, like, the AHL guys moving up to the end where it's a faster game and people are on you and like just the pace is that much quicker. It's the same thing here. It's everybody's really good. They have really good thumbs. They have, for the most part, have really good hockey IQ and they make decisions um, at a really quick pace. So like that's the main, like I'd say 80 to 85%. Um, and then the other 15 is just the style of play. And it's hard for me personally, having played in all three, to go back to, you know, lower level AHL, CHL style of play, which is kind of just a free for all, versus the NHL where, you watch those high level games It's very structured. You have your defenseman pick up the puck, your defenseman skates out to the neutral zone, and you make a break in pass at the far blue line. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
it's very structured. You almost like people are so good, you almost need to gain that much ice and make those cuts in the far neutral zone, or else you won't get in the zone, you won't be successful. You know?
Yep.
So like that is the main difference. And you know, managing in the AHL, you try to it's almost like running a pro style offense in college football. Like you try to set these people up for success by kind of doing that, and but it's hard. So like those are kind of the main differences between the leagues.
Nice. Yeah, I think you explained it really, really well. Like it made a lot of sense to me. And it's kind of where my head was at too. Like I've never really had the opportunity to play many games in the AHL and very select few in the NHL where it was just an absolute shit show last like week of the season where they just needed all kinds of TC, so it wasn't very fun. But yeah, like that's like the perfect way to explain it, right? The CHL guys are just learning how to play the game. In some cases, guys are just buzzing around, and guys get by on their skill. The AHL sounds like it's more structured. Skilled guys are still there doing some of their stuff, but it is a lot more structured from a team perspective. And then like the best of the best players play in the top league. Like it's really hard to just get by with just knowing how to play a structure of some sort. Like you need to have skill too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly.
That's awesome, man. Thanks for doing that. That's it's really interesting. I don't know if I've had many people on that have all that experience. Now over the last few seasons, I noticed that you dabbled a little bit on the PSN side. What made you decide to hop over there?
Um, COVID stuff. Like I had some time, and I was like, I kind of want to see where I was at, and you know, I figured you could play one position on one side and play another on the other, and you know, kind of branch out that way, meet more people, and um, I because I always wanted to practice playing forward
Hmm.
because I originally like I only played forward in club when I started playing online, and I mainly just switched to defense because I was like natural. I played hockey in real life, so I understood the game and I understood reads, and you know that kind of gives you a leg up as a defenseman. You kind of move up really quick that way.
Hmm.
So I figured I could move up quick and then switch to forward and be happy. But you know, kind of, I feel like I jump back and forth a lot. But that going back to the question, playing PSN was a way for me to practice playing forward too, originally.
Got you. Did you find that was there any difference of gameplay between the two systems? And did you find it hard to like bounce back and forth between Xbox and PSN?
Well, yes. So this was the first season of the old gen, new gen crap,
Hmm.
and it was fall season, so it was the first season of the game cycle. So I guess you could say I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. I just figured the games would be the same, but it was new gen Xbox Series S, and then PlayStation was playing old gen PS4 was a terrible version of the game. Like just awful. Like the worst thing you could imagine about the Xbox version, like multiply it by 10 and the PS4 version was that bad.
Dang.
It was just super choppy and the graphics were terrible and the bounces were even worse. It wasn't fun. And also, you know, the sensitivity differences between the joysticks and the controllers, it to answer your question, it was very tough going back and forth. Um I tried to do it cuz I was going to play I was on a line the second pair with Jakku. And I was like so I told the manager, I was like, "Yeah, yeah, sure. I can play left D,
Mhm.
even though like I don't really play righty, and I hadn't used a PlayStation controller since like PS2, you know.
Yeah.
But I was like, yeah, sure. Let me just play left D on a really good line because Jakku had the puck 95% of the game anyway. so I won't have to do very much.
Yeah, just stand
But
there and make a pass every now and
yeah, I could not pass for the first 3 weeks
then.
on that controller. So I got like the what do you call it? The converter where you could use an Xbox controller, but that gave me terrible lag and it wasn't great. So by midseason that team blew up. Um so I got traded to Minnesota. Great management. BTL Moti and Acties, they're really good guys. Um, but I may have been on the worst line in the history of LG. Like we played with the ECU Center for every week until playoffs started, and the wingers were like CHLers. It was dreadful. So by the end, I just wanted it all to be over.
Yeah, no, that's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
Sounds like quite the experiment going over to the PSN side between the controllers and the teams and whatnot too, and
Yeah.
being on old gen.
It was not as smooth as predicted.
That's awesome. Well, it sounds like you had a terrible experience. But I still want to ask you this: which console is better at the game, PSN or Xbox? Which players are better?
Um, well, at the top, at the very top of the food chain, they're they're both sides are good. Like the very best players are very good on both sides. Um, but Xbox has way more depth at every level and every version of player. So for every, for the 5 top players on PSN, there's 15 on Xbox. But at every single level. So like if you're comparing Xbox NHL to PSN, it's just Xbox's depth at every level would win out.
So Xbox.
And it's getting even worse because it's hard to get a PS5. So all of the PlayStation guys are starting to come over to Xbox.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess we're gonna find out hopefully this game, right? Being able to play crossplay with the PSN guys, and there's gonna be a lot of opportunity for these teams to play each other. And I think like the goal is at the end of each season, the winners from each side are gonna play off against each other. So that'll be fun to see.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. You talked about playing multiple positions. You've played games at almost every position in the lead, excluding you only played 2 games at goalie. So we're just going to take that right out. If you were told you need to pick one position to play for the remainder of your ESHL time, what position would it be?
Like if I was on a
For,
true
forever.
trying to compete. So
Yeah.
if I was, so you said EASHL or like
Yeah.
esports?
No, EASHL. Like, so just like in just like NHL in general. Like you had to pick one position and you're really locked in it forever. What position would it
Okay.
be?
Those are very different answers. So I'll answer the the esports one. If I had to play on an esports team, I would play right D.
Okay.
Like it's my best position. I can control a game that way much easier. Um, and that would give me the best chance to actually compete. But just like if I'm playing NHL for the rest of my life and the only position I could play was one, I'd play right wing
So
because
you
that's
have more fun by the sounds of it up front, but you lock it down. You're more competitive on the back end. Is that what you're
I
saying?
just like I like having my hands in breaking in the puck, and I'm a fairly good game manager, so like that's where I excel on defense. So as I was mentioning, like as you move up, defensemen carrying the puck are more important and
Mm-hmm.
making smart breakout. Like that's what I'm good at on defense. So you could say I have more impact on the game that way, rather than hoping that my defensemen are good playing at right wing.
Perfect. All right. Now I mentioned it in the intro. Obviously, you've spent a lot of time with Mr. No Thumb Swifty 7 on his show. We learned how that relationship started, but how did you start to get involved in his show?
Good question. Um, so I think he was doing a little bit of media season 32, but not that much. Like, and I wouldn't have known the difference anyway. I just kind of showed up and was it was fun to be a part of. But season 33, I'm pretty sure as the season was going on, he was looking for guests, and you know, one of the first shows that I did was kind of the playoff pick'em, and we used to go over each series and blah blah blah. And I think that was my first real taste of it. And I don't know, I just kept volunteering for it, and we have pretty good chemistry as we're doing our shows. We kind of have the same kind of style of like serious. We know what we're talking about, but we kind of goof around and still have fun with it. So it was a good fit, and I always enjoy doing this kind of stuff. So it kind of blossomed from there.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think I reached out to you one time, like about the chemistry thing. I think you guys are great when you're on a show together. Always entertaining, and you guys do have a lot of fun on there. And I think you work really good together too. So that's awesome.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, it's it's uh it's enjoyable to make fun of him a little bit, and we both know what our quirks are. Um, so it's better to have fun with the viewers and make it known, rather
Yeah.
than to try to be something you're not.
Yeah, that's for sure, right? You know how to kind of get them wound up a little bit, but like I think from the example I was thinking of, like you know how to help them like stay calm. For example, like when we were going through some media questionable stuff at the beginning of the last season there, and he was on his stream and going off his stream and back on his stream, and you were there just like kind of being that mediator and keeping the show alive. So so
Yeah,
you know
babysitter,
you can
therapist.
get them going, but you know how
Yeah,
to talk them off the ledge too. So that's what I mean. You guys have great chemistry on the show.
that's what my entire season 36 was. Team dad slash Swifty therapist.
That's awesome. Um, Now getting involved in that show, like, is media something you've always been involved in? Is it something you like to do more of?
Um, I just enjoy it on the side. I don't think it's something that I ever envisioned myself like, let's be a full-time streamer, let's do this, let's do that. Um, but my brother makes fun of me. Like we'll be watching a game together, and I'll just say something off the cuff, and then the commentary will say it like 5 seconds later. The running joke is they have a microphone in our living room, right? Um, so I've always enjoyed kind of the analyst kind of color commentary kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So when I had a chance to hop into it and um, do it for fun, I kind of jumped at the opportunity. Is it something that I'll go after as like a career path? Probably not, but just something fun.
Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. And then just last piece on media. I just wanted to bring up the World Juniors this past season. I thought you did a really good write up. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Um, but I love the more. So you did that ranking list right at the beginning, uh, ranking each team, grading each team, whatever you want to call it. And then you made a revised list explaining your decisions and how the teams kind of re-rank. You kind of re-rank them and based, like, you talked about your decisions on why you said this, why you said that. Would you have still done that revised list if your top ranked team wasn't trash and didn't make playoffs, and your lowest rated team, Ukraine, with a C rating, did make playoffs? Would you still have done that revisit, or was that what drove the revision?
No, I always wanted to do revisits. So everybody does these power rankings, like, oh, I think my team's the best kind of thing. But then nobody comes back to it and takes accountability for what they chose. They kind of get let off the hook. So I was like, well, you know, people really don't want me managing this thing anyway. And I told some of the teams that they were not good. So let's go see how they did. So some of them uh, under or overperformed and did better than expected. Um, and others were proven to be where I thought they were going to be. So I thought it was fun. I enjoyed those written pieces. Um, I used to do the draft grades after every uh, draft season.
Mm-hmm.
I used to do grades for each team based on the prospects that they picked, and it was kind of the yearly big article that I did. But yeah, so this was fun to kind of get back into it that way.
So, like I said, I loved it. I liked the first one, and the second one was even better because you kind of explained like, hey, this is what went wrong with my pick and why it happened and the changes. Like it was really well detailed. Awesome, awesome content. And Max saying in the chat, you need to write more for LG too. So
I could. Yeah. So Mac, you got to give me the idea though. You got to give me the topic, and I'll write one for you.
there you go. There you go. You can go, and then start getting involved in some more shows. We can do like Fly on the Wall or something like that segment.
Well, so it was funny. Mac, come on, buddy. Um, the on the fly, the red zone on the playoffs.
There you go.
So I uh I don't want to take full credit because obviously, Swifty drives the bus, but um I kind of came up with that one and we ran with it. So we called it LG on the fly,
That's
almost like the NHL Tonight Show kind of thing.
yeah, that was awesome. That's sweet.
Yeah.
Um, okay, last question for you, and then I'll leave it open for a question from you to me. Like I give all my guests an opportunity to ask me a question, and then I'd open it up. Like if anybody in chat has any questions for Fly, throw them in the chat. If they're appropriate, I'll ask them. If they're not appropriate, I'll still ask them, and he'll just get an opportunity not to answer them. Um, if you were able to change anything in the league today, what would it be?
It's a hard question. Um that's a really hard question. So I think a lot of the things that I thought were necessary to change are kind of currently being changed. Um, like with the change committee stuff, I think it's been a lot of good conversation over the last few seasons. Um, one of the things that needed to be changed very badly was um, the AHL and NHL relationships between the teams, the true affiliations. Um, Personally, I don't enjoy it. Like if I'm managing against people, I don't enjoy when they get free stuff. Like I don't enjoy when, in the CHL when somebody gets a really good RA prospect and they didn't need to work at it. You know what I mean? They didn't do anything to deserve it.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the kind of stuff that needs to be minimized in my opinion. So, I'll just give an example, and I know it's the example that, you know, everyone uses, but season 39 in the AHL, when A1 Freak hoarded half the first round of draft picks, like Bridgeport had, I'm pretty sure, 9 draft picks on their AHL roster that got them a Calder, you know?
Yeah.
So, like, that kind of stuff needed to be phased out, whether it's, and I think we did that over the last few years. It's, NHL teams could only have 6 draft picks. And, when you assigned a draft pick to a league, they needed to stay there. Like all of that stuff is stuff that we fought for in the change committee. And I think helped make the AHL super, super competitive. Um, and had a lot of parity. Um, I really enjoyed managing season 40 after the roster reset. Like me and Ryan, that was my first year as really being the manager. Like I was the true GM for the first time. Um, and we said, roster reset. No one has any assets of any kind. There aren't going to be send downs and draft picks and all that stuff where people get free things. Like this will show who the best manager is, and we ended up winning. So that was super fun to me. But that's the kind of stuff that I wanted kind of phased out.
Mm-hmm.
um the rest of it is just like rules and things where you know I found a loophole to it and it needs to be closed. You know what I mean? And Swifty can tell you I wanted to use some of these loopholes, but he wouldn't let me because he's too risk averse. But it's fine.
Yeah, he really is. He's to the book, man. And like, I mean, shit, he banned 2 of his guys right off the hop this season because he found out that they were tags to, right? Like
Yeah,
he
that's
he's got everything on lock for sure. No, that's a good point. And I think like I know you talked like the relationship NHL AHL, but like for me in the CHL, that's something that I think is super important too. You run yourself into these trades sometimes that as an experienced manager you learn some stuff, but even still you're not protected. Like there's times where I've reached out being like, hey, like are you planning on sending this guy down? They're like, no. And I'm like, okay, I'll end up moving him, and then the next week he's sent down, right? So um that kind of stuff sucks sometimes too, but yeah, no, that's a good call out. I do have one more question before, so it's a last
sure.
question. How are you enjoying the new game?
Uh, I'm not the biggest fan.
Why?
Um, I think the balance is a little off. So for me personally, sure, I think it's really fun to run a 6'2", 210 power forward and never be able to get bumped off the puck on the wing. So like that's been a good time for me. But defensively, getting rid of almost every defensive tool to make a play, it's not balanced how it needs to be. Like they needed to reduce the wand waving from defensemen. Like defense was so easy last year; it was just mindless, and you could just hold down or click poke and run around like a crazy person,
Yeah.
and you get rewarded for it. So like that needed to change, but nerfing every defensive tool to the point where if you click poke, you lose all of your speed, and then if you click stick lift, where you're given an insta penalty like
2 minutes.
NHL 19.
Yeah.
Like it's just, and then nerfing hitting so that basically if you want to play your normal build with enough speed to keep up with the small forwards, you pretty much have to use truculence or one of the hitting perks in some form
Mm-hmm.
just so you can bump people. It's just not balanced in
Yeah,
that way.
no, I don't disagree with you there. And actually, one guy I was playing with recently made a good point. It's like they skate the speed boost skating right with your stick out. They nerfed that, but they didn't nerf pushing the puck forward and skating with it. So you can still get a boost if you just right bump or push it forward or whatever, and you still get that boost offensively, but you lose it defensively, which is kind of like when you talk about that balance. And the poking and stopping your player like completely is it's insane. So I feel
Yeah.
bad for defense, and then the A button is the new penalty button, right? Hopefully that, like, I'm sure they'll fix that sooner than later. I would love to know. I was saying the other night, I would love to know if EA has a count of how many 2 minute penalties have been given out so far for slashing.
Oh, it's got to be off the charts.
Yeah,
And
people
it's
will
just
complain.
so reactive now because in the last game, I think pokes were in a decent spot in the last game. Like if you missed, it wasn't always a penalty.
Hmm.
But if you were in the right position, you lifted his stick, and that's how it should be. So I don't know why they needed to change that, but it's just instinctive now when you're in certain spots, and especially you're grinding behind the net, and you've been in this spot a million times, and over the last year you've been able to stick lift, like just instinctively, reflexively, you're gonna hit the button, you know.
Right, right. Yeah, no, that was for like instead of stick lift for me was the skating with my stick out. When I first started playing this game, I was like, why am I not back checking? And I'd look at my guy, and it's because
Huh.
I got my
Yeah,
stick out, and he's just like lollydagging in the neutral zone, right? Right on. It'll get
yeah.
better, I think. I think they'll just start changing it. And it'll end up being very similar to what last season's game is. And by the end of it, I got a feeling that's how it'll end up going.
Well, what they needed to do is do less about the speed and more about the effectiveness of poke checks.
Right.
Like one, they needed to make poke checks the power of the poke check stronger, so that you don't have to spam the button to get the puck away 9 times from the forward before he actually loses it.
Hmm.
Like you hit it once and the puck actually goes out of the field of where the forward can pick it back up and kind of hoover it back in. You know,
Yeah.
that's one. Two, you needed to reduce the actual effectiveness of poke checks, like of the stick hitting the puck, the collision physics themselves. If you hold your stick out in this game, if you're far back enough, the forward's going to lose the puck every time. Like the poke check is still ridiculously effective as long as use it to where you don't need the speed,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
or like the people with really good ping this season, they'll turn their back to the forward, they'll start skating with them forward, like both going forward towards the goal line,
Mhm.
and they'll hold the stick out, and the forward has nowhere to go, and once that like as soon as the puck hits the stick, you're losing it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like the speed of the player isn't the only thing that made poke checks OP in the last game. So like they're missing that portion of that, and they made uh defensemen's time a nightmare by nerfing every defensive tool.
Yeah. It's crazy, man. It's crazy. It's crazy. I can only assume it'll get better. It always does. And because yeah, I gotta remember at the beginning of last game, every shot with a player in front was tipped in the net. They ended up nerfing that at some point. So seems like pokes
It went
or
back to back.
tipping is back though. It seems like tipping is back. By the way,
I played goalie yesterday and I got tipped on by the same guy 3 times in one game.
he probably didn't
No
even have big
matter.
tipper either.
Oh, he had it.
Oh, he did. Okay.
Oh, they looked for it. Oh yeah.
Nice. Nice. Right on.
I was on his forehand. I was on his backhand. I was in the back of the crease. I was in top of the crease. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it sucks, man. That's brutal. It's tough, right? Those ones are tough. But there's nothing you can do as a goalie, unfortunately, in those scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay. One question here in the chat that came through, and it was from Mac. With the new format, with LG, will it be more competitive for all three leagues?
Uh, I would think so. Um, assuming that signups get to where they need to be. So, from what I've seen of the signup list, there's a ton of CHLers coming back. There's a ton of what I'll call for this season lower tier AHLers coming back.
Mm-hmm.
What I have not seen is all of the longtime NHLers signing up. Now, I don't know whether that's they um they're figuring out if they like the game yet. They're waiting until last minute like they normally do. They're sick of the sim league, like all of those things. The long time heavy hitters have not signed up yet for the most part.
Gotcha.
So if those guys do sign up, then all of the talent will fall to the leagues where they should be,
Mm-hmm.
and everything will be super, super competitive and fun. Like the AHL, I think no matter what is going to be an absolute gauntlet. Like you look at the threads for pre-vetting and the applications, there's like 25 managers that are like, grade A managers, grade A and above.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure like the last, I don't know, 6 Calder winners are back and put in an application. Like that's crazy town, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, plus God knows however many other good guys coming back. Like you have the Clutch and Bark coming back, you have Deke coming down, Gilbsy, you have, all these like third line NHLers that are coming down because they're eligible, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, the AHL is going to be an absolute war zone, but for the NHL, it all depends on those signups.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. And I think what do we got another week and a bit here before the NHL bidding. So a little bit of time. Hopefully we see those signups because I'd like to see a really competitive NHL to be completely honest with you. And I think you need to have a competitive NHL before they introduce that Super League or whatever the heck they're doing above NHL. So hopefully we see some signups.
No comment. But yes,
Yes.
yes, they pared down NHL teams to make NHL the most competitive,
Right.
and it would be and if it would be a shame if it didn't turn out to be that, because there are going to be 16 good NHL managers, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that the necessary talent shows up and kind of naturally falls where it's supposed to.
Yeah. Fair enough. Now, I know you've had a really long day, and I appreciate you hopping on the show today. I do leave question open for one question from my guest to me if you have one.
Oh, I have a couple questions.
You get one.
Um, I get one.
One
Okay, let me
question.
pick. So this won't count, but you've been in management for how long? A couple seasons now? Three, 4 seasons?
4 or 5 seasons, I think.
Yeah. So what season five, you got everything down, you have your process, you're comfortable. Um what what is the biggest difference between season one, Big Kahuna as a manager versus season five, Big Kahuna as a manager? And like what would you tell yourself if you had to go back?
Yeah, for sure. So I think like one of the things you said was like a process, right? Like I think over the like my time as a manager, I've developed kind of a process of like this is what I do when I go into bidding. This is how I want my like how I'm going to manage my team once they get in, and then things like I'll be looking for changes throughout the year. So I've kind of developed like a process of some sort. I over the last few seasons too versus season one, I got to know the league very, very well. And a lot of it's to do with running my show, right? I really get to see every player on every team and get to know more guys. And then just like being more prepared. I think the first season was like I prepared a lot, but I didn't know anybody, and it caused like some of those issues where like you talked about like relationships on the team, and I was trying to make things work that were never gonna work for guys. Like guys weren't getting
Mm-hmm.
along, or guys had egos that weren't gonna work on the team that hurt the team, and I was trying to look past that because they were really good individual players, right? And now I'm more focused on like making sure I have a solid team. Where I still could improve though is I'm extremely, I would say, friendly slash forgiving, and I won't make moves that will damage relationships at times. That is definitely something that's hurt me from being like a great team versus a good team. But I think yeah, like I think the biggest thing was learning more about the players and kind of the dynamics of what I need to have on a roster and not trying to like stay focused on like I can fix this guy, right? I can make this work. I can make this work. And you just kind of got to let go and try to move on to something new. And the first couple seasons, I definitely wasn't doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, it totally makes sense. Like it's almost like a relationship in a sense, like there's only a certain amount that you can change about a person. Like you can teach them tactics, like you can teach them how to play the game, but you know, if someone's going to go off in the chat after a loss, if someone's not going to be a great teammate, like you're over the course of what 4 or 5 weeks where you have to make your decisions, like you're not going to change that person.
Right.
So it's sometimes it's ultimately better to cut bait and move on and try something else rather than to stick with something that you are hoping it works
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
probably won't.
And I think like the example I'll give is like when my first season as an owner was with Everett, season 38, I believe. And I think I want to say it was you that reached out about a player that I had was that Loki, the QC player, maybe. I want to say he was for Providence. You were asking about maybe potentially getting a trade for him. Anyways, he
Oh,
was an
maybe.
unreal individual player, but on a
Oh,
team,
Loki QC. I know who you're
yeah,
talking about. Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
on
yeah, yeah.
on a team, he was extremely toxic, man. Like wouldn't pass the puck, wasn't like getting along with the team, like in the Discord and whatnot. So I surrounded him with his buddies, and I was like, he was asking for another guy. I went and got a different guy for him. So like I made all these crazy changes for a guy that like was never gonna change his way, right? And we got into what was it? Maybe either the season after that or the maybe the one after that, and we brought in from a recommendation, OTK Killjoy, who was at the time like the highest rated ESHL player that made it into bidding. Brought him on, and we were like, sweet, we got him. He's like, I think we got him for like 2.5. Like he's gonna be unreal. Wasn't meant for LG. Like he just was not an LG player, and we moved on from him relatively quickly. And I'd
Yeah.
helped our team big that season. So like that's where I think I can put that in perspective where I had to learn from a mistake that I made in the past.
Yeah. And I mean, look, at the end of the day, like for the most part, trading someone is not a relationship killer. Like if it's done in the right way, you know. And most people understand that this is all just a game. And if you phrase it like, "Hey, look, you're not happy. Uh, we're not, you know, you're not successful. We're not gelling. You know, maybe it's time to do something else." Like I'll give an example from my team. Um, season 40, we had a guy, and he was kind of jumping between lines and wasn't the happiest, but he was a really good friend of ours. I played with him in season 39 on the Phantoms, and you know, we had a couple very strong characters, and I made the decision that our best option for winning in the playoffs was moving this guy to the third line. And yes, it would be kind of shitty, and they would get a lot of the Sui games. But I think this person can go to the third line, help us. He might bitch a little bit, but it can win us a cup, and that's what happened.
Mm.
Um, the season after that, he didn't find a home again for the first couple weeks and was kind of still bitching about being third line and whatever. And I had to move him because it just what like his mindset at the time, and you know the dynamics of the team. It just wasn't going to work. So it was better to let him go do other things with different people than to keep him around, even though he's a friend, and let us all be miserable. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, for sure.
So like those are the times where it's better to just cut bait, over communicate like, hey, I'm not trading, like this isn't the end of our friendship. Like I still want to play with you,
Hmm.
but like like you're not happy, I'm not the happiest, you're not successful, you want to do better things with better people. Like let me give you the opportunity to do that. Like
Yeah.
75% is in the way that you communicate and phrase it too. Like
Oh, for sure,
rather
for sure.
than just skipping them, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, for sure, for sure. Yep. But I know you and Swifty, I think, talked about it on one of his shows recently. I'm not going to be managing this season, so I'm a little bit nervous for that because I like being in control too, to be completely honest with you. And I'm very worried about where I end up. So
Do you have an idea of where you'll land?
no, no, I don't. I have no clue where I'm gonna go. I've had a few teams reach out to me to be AGM for their teams, and I've
Yeah.
considered it because it's like, yeah, it's like a safe place, and I don't have to worry about not knowing where I'm gonna go. But
Yeah.
no, I've already said no to a few guys, so I can't say yes to another guy. So I'm just gonna go into bidding and see where I end up. But yeah, I take the season off this season for managing for sure.
It it's really nice to take a season off of managing after doing it for a while.
So I only did it one time, and that was with the Cougars, season 40, and I ended up becoming the GM partway through the season, anyways. So
Uh, yeah. So my season last season, I RV'd last season because you know bunch of wedding season and vacations, and I was I managed what 9 months in a row,
yeah,
uh, from 39 to 41.
damn,
So it was just a lot.
yeah.
So it was nice to take a break last season.
Yeah, yeah, I'm looking forward to that, man. I thought last season was a grind with like availability, trying to schedule guys, and it just seemed to be like
Some
nothing would
seasons are
work. Like I had
long,
ideas
man.
of what my lines wanted to be, and guys just were never like just were not into it. So I was just like, fuck, like I need to take a break, man. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, going 4-4-4, like I'm not looking to do more work to manage either. So
Don't. Yeah. Ugh.
I'm looking in the chat though. Super Roger saying I'm gonna go for 5 mil. I hope not. Gaudy Max asking me if I'm signing up for center or D, and I know why because I'm a trash defenseman, so I'm signing up for center. And then Swifty saying if the opportunity is good, don't pass it up. Pretty much. And he's saying if a power management team came to him, he'd say yes.
Somebody clip that.
Put that out
Somebody
there. If a power
somebody
management
screen
team asked
that.
Swifty to manage, he will say yes.
Somebody post that in the dishboard, the Discord. I
Yeah,
think that goes in the rumor mill.
I think so too. Um, that's awesome. Flip it. Here we go. I'm doing it
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, anyways, man, I appreciate you hopping on. I know you've had a crazy, crazy day. This one was a great, great insight interview. Appreciate the time. I think we've gone over just around an hour now too. So I'll let you go. But thank you very much for hopping on today and being part of the show.
Of course. Anytime, happy to do it. I love the layout, and it's good to, you know, pick people's brains. So I'm always interested to tune in. So thanks to you for doing this. Thanks to the chat. It's been fun.
All right, man. Have a great night.
You too, buddy.
See ya.
Take it easy.
All right. Thanks to Fly for hopping on the show. Just before we close it out, let's I just got a couple things to say coming soon for Kahuna's Corner. I mean, the season's around the corner. So Kahuna's Corner is coming back beginning of the season. Even if I'm not in the CHL, which I think I will be, I'll still do CHL media. I love doing this league. Enjoy the hell out of it. So we'll be doing Kahuna's Corner again. Next week, Tuesday, October 25th, 8 p.m. EST, we have an interview with Wheels, aka Jay. I am looking very much forward to this. Just been talking with him recently. Seems like a really, really great guy, and I can't wait to have this conversation. It's going to be awesome. And then the other thing I just wanted to kind of mention too, and I don't know what this looks like, but I'm just setting the grounds for this, is I've always been a very, very big Movember guy over the last like 6-7 years. So I'm gonna try to find a way to incorporate something into my Movember, into my shows somehow over the month. Um, I'm gonna probably ask that like no subs take place during that time, and I'll try to find a way to put like a donation page up throughout the month of November. And I'm going to try to do some fun events along the way too to bring everybody along. I might create a team if I find that there's enough interest, like a team on the Movember website that we can all join as like a community. But yeah, I just wanted to get this out front. Like this is something that I take a lot of pride in, and I contribute a lot every year into this. And I normally do this with my workforce, but I think this year I want to see what I can do with the community that I have, and I mean, even if like the LG community itself. So this is something I'm going to try to get into my shows coming in November. So if it's something you guys are interested in, if you're in the Discord, shoot me a message, and with any ideas, throw them in that suggestion channel. But I just want to get these couple things out in front of you guys. Looking forward to the new season starting. I got to grind a little bit more on this game so I can get better. But hope everybody enjoyed the show. Thanks for coming back. I'm glad to be back, and we'll be back again next week. Hope everyone has a great night. Until next time, take it easy.